Hello and welcome to the third instalment of Osborne Clarke's Building Safety video series, in which experts across the firm unpack the key elements of the Building Safety Bill, which is currently going through Parliament. My name's Rebecca Francis and I'm in the Real Estate Disputes and Risks team, and today I'm joined by Matt Kyle, who's
Hello.
in our Regulatory Disputes team. Today I'm going to be asking him about the golden thread. Matt, what exactly is the golden thread?
Well, the golden thread is about information to do with the safety of your building, but there's a working definition as well at the moment. So there's a Building Regulations Advisory Committee that's worked with MHCLG and the HSE, and it defines the golden thread in summary as the information that allows you to understand the building and the steps needed to keep both the building and people safe now and in the future. So when thinking about the golden thread, I think it's useful to understand also what encompasses building safety. So it should really be taken to be both fire and structural safety of a building, and also the safety of the people who are in or in the vicinity of a building. So that might include sort of emergency responders as well. So practically, really, golden thread is about information to show that the building is compliant with building regulations and how it's been constructed, to identify and manage and mitigate safety risks in order to prevent or reduce consequences of fire spread or structural collapse. And that's got to be ongoing throughout the life cycle of the building. Golden thread is not something that just stops. The whole idea is it is a thread that runs all along. So it's really about evidence of what's been done in the construction and then how you're managing the ongoing risk subject to changes that might happen to that building over time.
So in terms of that body of evidence, is it intended that there will be a specific set of information that must be contained within it?
I think the intention is that there will be. The builders provide for a raft of secondary legislation, and it's proposed that will include golden thread regulations. The idea being that these will define the principles that a duty holder or accountable person must follow in maintaining and storing their golden thread information. I think they'll also define the information, data and documents that should be stored, and perhaps the process of doing so, in particular how that information should be provided to others, and in particular I think the residents. I can expect also guidance on how to implement the golden thread, which will sit underneath the regulations. So I think it will be. I think it's rare that it is ever a checklist or so detailed, because this is about you understanding the risks of your own building and managing those and demonstrating how you've done so. But I think there will be quite a considerable amount of guidance, because this is not going to be easy for duty holders to get a handle on, which is why it's proposed. But at the moment we've not really got that detail, and that's something else to be worked out. Because of course all this information is critical for that safety case and practical completion part to allow occupation.
Who exactly will be using the information contained within the golden thread?
Well, obviously the golden thread is a data bank, if you like, for evidence to demonstrate compliance to the building safety regulators. It's going to be used by the accountable person. But I think it's important to think that it's much more than that. It's something that applies across the whole life cycle of the building. So it's a living resource and needs to be updated as changes occur. In addition to the accountable person and building safety regulators, I think many other people will need access to that golden thread information. Could be building managers, architects, contractors, and others who will need information, which could be residents themselves, and that should come through accountable person through to the building safety manager. And also emergency responders as well. That's a big part of this. One of the aspects of Grenfell, which obviously triggered this whole review, was really the absence of knowledge about the particular building, and that being very available for them in order to inform their rescue at the end of it. So that will be part of it as well.
Okay. You referred to it being obviously a data bank.
Yeah.
But practically, how is this information going to be stored?
Well, there's a big push, if not, I think it would probably be a requirement actually, that the golden thread information is stored and structured as digitally. I think the government will specify digital standards in its guidance, and I expect this to be quite strict. Obviously, for existing high-rise buildings that come into scope, there's going to be some records in paper form. However, I can see the potential for either having to be converted into a digital database, or potentially for new inspections of that building to sort of recreate it to actually create the information in a digital form. I think basically we were moving away from dusty lever arch files full of incomplete papers in a basement of a building somewhere. It's got to be much more accessible instantly to people. And for new builds, the current guidance talks about the need for duty holders and accountable persons to have this strong, standardised and holistic information management system. So I think the guidance and the ancillary regulations are going to make it quite clear that you need actually a sort of system and a process in place. It's not going to be as ad hoc as we've got now, because that's been one of the major problems.
So obviously what you've been talking about does show that it's going to be pretty onerous, and there's quite a bit to get to grips with. So how can individuals and organisations start preparing?
Well, it's all about the golden thread, and I think being able to evidence that your building is safe and being able to easily communicate that is going to be almost as important as the safety measures themselves. So those with an interest in high-rise residential property need to begin preparing now for the upcoming legislation, and considering the way they currently manage and exchange information. Need to be looking at considering how your designers and contractors are recording their work. Can they show that it's being built to design? Where is a record of materials, records of things like fire stopping? Is it being photographed as it goes in before it becomes inaccessible behind walls and cladding? So it's really thinking about that information piece and being on the front foot, because scrabbling around for information at a later date not only affect compliance with the Building Safety Bill, but there's a whole raft of other reasons why it's really essential, given the focus that's coming, to have that information absolutely documented and as comprehensive as possible. So that may well mean putting more obligations on your contractors to satisfy you at the various stages, rather than sort of just a sign off at the end where things can be perhaps a bit more hidden.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please join us next time, where Robert Agetti will be discussing liability for defective works under the bill. Thank you.
Goodbye.